Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at an Echo 355T top handle chainsaw. Customer complaint is that it's low on power, a little boggy, and he thinks it needs a tune-up. Well, a lot of times customers will say tune-up when they have these boggy conditions, and really it just needs the actual problem addressed. So we're going to go through this and figure out what that actual problem is. I'm going to show you what I found, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of finish the repair. I didn't do everything I should have done on this repair, and I'm not going to trick you, you know, like I staged it this way and I left it so that you could try and figure something out. The fact is, this video is about 4 years old, and as I was going through videos to edit, I found here one of them that I didn't quite complete the repair. And I may have in the end, but I don't have footage of that. I don't remember it. It was 4 years ago. I mean, I don't remember what I had for breakfast, right? So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm pulling the muffler off, and I'm looking at the spark arrestor screen. Now I'm looking in the cylinder to make sure it's not scored. Certainly either one of those things could create a bog or low on power condition. The screen looked good and the cylinder looks good. I'm getting a really good look at it there, and I don't see any problems with it. Now you might notice that, you know, I didn't start by looking in the fuel tank. And, you know, I guess I don't do that all the time. Maybe it's become that since I started making all these videos. I've kind of laid out a pattern to follow, but I didn't always follow that pattern. You know, we develop these methods and patterns as time goes on. And when I started working here and concentrating a lot harder on chainsaws, I started developing more of a system. So right now I'm looking in the cylinder, struggling to get this spark plug boot off of here. This may not necessarily be the best way to do it, but as long as you get it off of there without removing the terminal from the wire, I guess it's a win, right? Usually a little twisting action while you're pulling works. And I found that I got a special pliers that actually works pretty good, but I'm not showing it to you in this video. I also am not using the Thexton spark plug removal tool because I didn't own one yet in this video. Normally I'd use a rubber hose. That one I just bought. Spark plug looks a little bit carboned up. We're going to pull this carburetor off of here and look. But I want you to look on the bench. You see that the fuel filter is sitting there? So this is another case of, you know, I get interrupted when I'm at work. Got to run off and go do something. Maybe I forgot to hit the record button. So I did look in the fuel tank, and I did replace the fuel filter. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out what I may have missed on this. It's definitely not that the filter needed to be changed. All right, we've got the linkage off the carburetor. We got two fuel lines here attached to the carb. That one kind of pulled off of there easy. That's the one that comes from the tank. This one here is coming from the purge bulb. So we're just going to set that off to the side. Carburetor looks a little dirty on the outside, but nothing unusual about it. We'll clean off some of the schmutz. And this video actually predates the carb stand. So we're doing this old school. But look at that micro screen. It is full of black schmutz that's actually blocking the flow of fuel into the carburetor. And that is definitely the reason or at least a reason, that the saw is not running right, that it's bogging and it's low on power. You can see where I scraped the screwdriver across that screen and it's clear in some spots, but you can also see where I didn't scrape it and the light doesn't even shine through it. So that thing was definitely completely blocked up. I'm surprised it ran at anything more than an idle. So we don't know how much of that stuff may have made it into the carburetor or not. We're going to open it up, clean it out, put a kit in it, put it back together. This side of the carburetor is the metering diaphragm. And, you know, we like to check for stiffness of this. If it's stiff, that could also cause those problems. And it's not really stiff, but it's kind of stretched. It's not great. I mean, it's getting replaced, but that micro screen was definitely, you could just point at that and say, there's your reason, and you wouldn't need any more than that. All right, I want to get the limiter caps off this carburetor, and this tool that I'm using is an official Echo branded, or sold by Echo anyway, removal tool. It's got fine left-hand threads, and the idea is the threads bite into the plastic limiter, and the end of the tool hits the top of the needle and then pulls the limiter out. But that one didn't work. It should have worked, but I think that the holes in there were kind of stretched out or something. I don't know, maybe someone's been in here before, or maybe it's just from the guy adjusting the carburetor and hacking on it with a screwdriver. So I stepped up to the next bigger size, and it's cranking in there pretty hard, which really just means it's biting into the plastic really good. And you can see how it's backing out the limiter. So we're going to completely remove the limiter cap because we want to remove the needles. And that screw is got left-handed threads on it. So we'll pop this limiter cap back off. We'll save that so we can put it back together. And then we'll do the same thing on the other one. You just kind of thread that tool in there, and it will eventually bottom against the needle. And once it's bottomed and you continue turning it, it will pull the plastic limiter out. You get to some point, you can just pull it out then. Now that the limiters are out, I'm going to turn the needles in, and I'm counting the turns. And I'm going to lightly bottom the needle. And then when I put this back together, I'll back the screw out however many turns I just counted to bottom it. So I've done that to both needles now. I'm stripping this down, and I'm actually going to drop it in the ultrasonic cleaner. That's something you don't see me do a lot in more recent years or more recent videos. Kind of gotten away from it. I've developed the attitude that if the carb is so bad that I got to put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, I might just replace it. But, you know, that doesn't have to be the case. And here I'm going to show you when I do use the ultrasonic cleaner, the way that I do it. I get a jar, mason jar, and I put the carburetor in there and add some gasoline, premix in this case. And I put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, turn it on, and you can see that there's all kinds of action going on inside that jar. And the advantage of doing this is that I don't have to... Oh, check it out. You got underglow lights on your toolbox or a running board? I do. The advantage to putting it in that jar is that them Neanderthal knuckle draggers on the other side of the shop, they just drop them nasty old carb bowls and carbs in the ultrasonic cleaner, and everything's green and crappy in there. So this way I'm just dealing with I'm not dealing with their schmutz is what it is. And I'm not creating a mess either. So that's why I put it in the jar. There's our new micro screen, all clean and shiny. No debris in that one. Now I don't know why we're thinking. We know what to do here. There's our old fuel pump, a little bit stretched. This kit has multiple fuel pumps in it. You just got to pick the right one. And if you notice, there's kind of a round index tab on that pump and gasket. So we should just be able to dig into the pile and find the gasket with that round index tab on it. And that's going to be the one. It's not always the case, but usually that's the way it works out. That one doesn't even have a pump on it. That section's all gone. So it must be this last one here. And sure enough, it does have that matching round tab. And then we just sandwich it all together. Pump goes down first, flat against the carburetor. Then the paper gasket, and then the cover. So far, so good. Or is it? You decide. I'm cleaning off the new needle right now because I believe that there's shipping preservative on these needles, so I clean them off. Drop our metering lever spring into place. I'm loosening up that screw because I had tightened it down before it went in the ultrasonic cleaner. And loading the needle onto the metering lever along with the cross shaft.
Right.
We'll do it again here just in case you didn't see that. I didn't drop it. And now we do the fumbly fingers part. These parts are so small and sometimes it can be a pain in the butt to get this all lined up. But if you know what has to happen and you take measures not to let parts fly across the shop, you know, so what if you got to do it 2 or 3 times? Here we go. Everything looks like it moves the way it should, so I'll tighten the screw down. There's one step that I didn't perform right there. That'll be a bonus step. You can add that in the comments if you want, but that step isn't the one I'm looking for. Now we're going to screw down the metering diaphragm plate. All right, looks good. Yeah, that should work. So I don't know if I showed you the way that I keep track of the needles. Usually I put the high-speed needle higher on the bench and the low-speed needle lower on the bench. But a lot of times they're different lengths and the low speed is the longer needle. So it's kind of easy to remember L for low and L for longer. You see that I gently seated it and then backed it out the amount of turns that we counted before we took it apart. Look at them go. All right, now we can put it back in the saw. Yeah, I got a big smudge on the lens. Nothing interesting going on down there anyway. All right, now we're going to show you the back of my hand here a little bit. There we go. All I'm doing is getting the throttle rod into the linkage of the carburetor. And I have to do the same thing for the choke linkage. And looks like I got that accomplished. The one thing that I didn't do was connect that fuel line before I pushed all that stuff down in there. So now I'm going to blow it back out and get on that fuel line and push it onto the carburetor. Looks like, can't tell. We can't tell. We don't know what he's doing. But it looks like he got the fuel line on there. This other line, it seems to want to go on there really easy. The end of the hose has got a bit of a memory. So we're just going to clean that up and then push it on there, and it's nice and snug. Now we just got to put the lines down where they belong so they stay out of trouble. That looks nice and neat. Echo does a pretty good job of routing things on these top handle saws, keeping the hoses out of the linkage. Alright, let's screw down the air filter base plate. And then we're going to fire this thing up and see how it runs. Now, did you figure out what one step I missed or what I should have done that I didn't do? I'm going to give you a minute to think about that, or you can pause the video right here and go back and look, because I'm about to tell you what actually got skipped here. So if you noticed, the micro screen in the carb was full of junk. And if it was full of white pus, I would be thinking there was water in the fuel. If it was full of brown wood-like debris, I would think that there was a crack in the fuel line or a bad fuel filter. But it was black. And this saw had a black rubber fuel hose. So we can assume that the hose itself is deteriorating and breaking down. And we did kind of see that in the fact that it didn't want to push onto the carburetor decent. You know, it kind of had a memory there and it was loose. Well, the whole inside of that line is starting to break down. And that fuel line should have been replaced because it's just going to continue to deteriorate and continue to fill that micro screen. Now, the one thing I do know is that this video is 4 years old and the saw didn't come back. Now, for sure it ran good for a period of time and may still be running good, but I don't think he took it somewhere else because it only ran for 2 years and then died again. I haven't seen the saw back, and it's a regular customer that, you know, he brings me all his saws, so he would have brought it back. The point is, years of accumulation of a deteriorating line will plug up that micro screen, and if you don't replace the line, you might get some more years of use out of it, but then again, maybe not. It's hard to say. It's kind of hard to test that theory. This is the little bit of evidence I actually have that it takes a while for this to accumulate. But if you figured out that I should replace that line, then good for you. If you didn't, well, let this be a lesson that black debris in the microscreen could very well be a deteriorating fuel line if you're using black rubber hose. So that's all I'm going to have for you on the Echo 355T chainsaw that had a plugged microscreen due to a deteriorating fuel hose. Thanks for watching. Later.
Don't bog now.